Today, I'm going to be ranking every single horror game that I have played on this channel so far. I know this is kind of different, but we're going to be laying some ground rules for this list, okay? Now, first things first, is that these are my personal opinions on my playthrough of the game. So if there's a game on here that you do recognize or that you created or that you really like, please don't come after my head for it. It was my personal playthrough and my personal experience playing these games. And I just want to let that be known because it's my opinion. I played it after all, and I don't want these ranks to determine whether or not, if you haven't played any of these games, that will deter you from either playing them or anything like that. So it's my opinion. I don't want people to go and, you know, come at my house with torch and pitchforks and everything like that. So please don't kill me over in the comments, okay? Please don't. Please don't. And another rule is that I'm only going to include one part of a series. So, for example, when I did Dark Deception a while back ago, I'm not going to just do, you know, chapter 1, chapter 2, because then this list will just get exhaustive. So I'm just going to rank the game overall. Same thing with like the Finest of Freddy's and, you know, Juniors and Rebrand of 87. Stuff like that as well. There's going to be its own sort of section. So there's only going to be one thing for it. So we're going to jump right into it. So I've actually made up a list right here, a tier list, and I put all my thumbnails and everything that I have. And on my other side is all the games that I have played. I went through last night and I just typed down all the games that I have played. So I'm going to be ranking these games based off their atmosphere. I'm going to be ranking them off their jump scares and basing off their story if there is any. Because this will be somewhat optional because some of these games are very short that I played as well. And basically, I'm not going to really, you know, shit on them too much for it. So that's what we're going to be doing here. We're also including demos and all stuff like that. So for games that are like, or the last Monday, how they had 2 parts. Basically, how it is I'm just going to just count it as one. So on and so forth. I know I already mentioned that, but let's get into it here. First thing we're gonna do. These are two games here. The first one is going to be Stall. Stall was an interesting game. It was about you basically going to the bathroom and then you going and getting a key to escape the bathroom or something. It was some weird, wacky shit for what I remember. But it was an okay game. It really did scare me a little bit when he whipped around the corner and everything like that. And he gave me a good reaction like this. But we're going to rank it in the C tier here. I feel like that's a good little start. So another one that we're going to put up in the C tier as well is this is on the same video. I did 2 videos in one. And this one, I think it was called There Are Ghosts in These Stalls. So it was sort of the same thing. You're in a stall. You have to escape the stall. And by escaping, you have to look at sigils that are all over the bathroom. They had really good jump scares in that last jump scare. I was not expecting at all. Look at that face, and you can't convince me otherwise. Alrighty, so we're going to, I know I only have one here. This is actually another 2 videos in one, or 2 games in one type video. And this one was House on Wheels, and this one was the Man in the Park 1. So I'm going to put this in a C tier as well. Because the only reason why I'm not going to put it in D tier is because I really liked the Man in the Park. It was silly because after I played the Man in the Park 2, it was actually, it was just a very silly game now looking back at it. So that's kind of the only reason why it's really in the C tier. If I ever play Man in the Park 1, or Man in the Park 2 rather, it probably would have been in D tier. So with that, we're going to put that in a solid C tier. Alrighty, well, we are getting into the nitty-gritty here. This is the most recent game that I have played, I would say a couple days ago. It is 3 minutes with your dog. It's a game about you spending 3 minutes with your dog, and that's how long basically the game is, depending on how, well, good you're doing the Frisbee minigame. So, basically, it was also very scary. It was, like, had me on edge the entire time, because I was expecting there to be, like, oh, I hate games that have you do stuff so simple and then it just jump scares you, or you have to look behind you, like you have to force yourself to do it. But I really liked the game. It was actually pretty funny. It was actually pretty fun as well. I'm gonna give it a B tier because it was actually pretty funny. The atmosphere was great. There wasn't really any story, but the jump scares really did get me at the end. I did not expect that jump scare at all. So and the lightning and the thunder and all that stuff, that really jump scared me. Next game is going to be A Craft of Mine. A Craft of Mine is a good little Minecraft horror game. I've never played a Minecraft horror game on this channel before at that time. And I was going to play Music Disc 11 a while back ago, but I just couldn't run it for whatever reason. But other than that, The Craft of Mine was actually a decent game. It kind of fell off towards the end of the game, so I'm going to give it a C tier. It was really good graphics-wise. It looked just like Minecraft, how you would expect it to be. And for it to be an itch.io game, it was actually pretty good. It was a really good storytelling. It had a few jump scares, and he had to actually, you know, escape the little creeper boy right here, which was quite difficult as well. Next is the fear time. Now we're gonna be getting to the combo bomb games. The fear time is by combo bomb. It's basically just their like a meat cannon game, if I can explain it loosely. Imagine if Meat Cannon made a horror game. This is basically what it'd be. It'd be basically scary cartoon dolls that are eating people or eating somebody or killing their best friend or something. But I'm gonna give it a B tier because it was a different type of game. There hasn't been an Adventure Time style horror game in such a long time, or at all really. And it was actually pretty good. I actually really did enjoy it. The jump scares were scary. They weren't really cheap besides one point. And other than that, it was a really good game. And it was a really scary horror game as well. It had me, the atmosphere wasn't really the scariest, but the jump scares were fucking scary. Oh, but this is gonna be interesting. Amanda the Adventurer. I didn't really like the game. I didn't really like what the thing was. The story, it just seemed a lot, and it seemed oversaturated with a lot of people who have actually played the game, and it kind of just deterred me from playing it, and I didn't really see myself playing it again because I'm not good at puzzles or anything like that, which, like, I'm not saying that's the main reason why I stopped playing the game, but it was just the game itself wasn't for me. I personally didn't like it, so I'm going to give it into a D tier. It had some ups and downs. It did have some really good storytelling and everything like that. And their jump scares were scary, and their atmosphere was really chilling. But it's just how the direction they were going just really wasn't for me. But that's just my personal opinion. I know a lot of people really did enjoy it and everything, but for me, it wasn't really my cup of tea. Curly Laboratory, Chapter 1. Well, I haven't really played Chapter 2 because I don't think they came out with a Chapter 2 as far as my knowledge, but I'm going to give it a C tier. It was a good sort of game. It was a good story as well for what it was worth, and I don't really remember much of it besides being chased by this dead mouse looking guy, and that's all I really remember. I know there was a point where you kind of like fought off like a wave of enemies with like a gun or something like that, which was also really cool, but it also took away the part of it being sort of scary when you were doing some of that. And the only really redeeming factor was just its story and its build-up and everything like that. And I guess being chased at the end, which was really scary for me because I hate being chased. And, you know, other than that, I feel like that's a well-deserving C tier of a game. It was really good atmosphere-wise. It had a few jump scares here and there. And, you know, just the story was actually pretty good. So I'm going to give it a C tier. All right, well, I know a lot of people are going to be hating me for this one who really enjoy this. But Dark Deception. As a whole, obviously the full game is not out yet. There still is to be another chapter that's supposed to come out probably later this year, if not early next year, as far as I'm aware. So, for this one, I'm going to rank it a C tier. It felt like it was the same chapter over and over and over again, but got progressively easier as you went on. Now, don't get me wrong, the story was really good. The graphics and the atmosphere and everything was really good. I love the characters. I love the story. I love basically the jump scares and you being chased the entire time. It really had me on edge, but it was just the gameplay itself. It just felt so boring. Like the first time you play it, holy shit, it's a really good game. Second time you play it, holy shit, it's a good game. Third time, okay, it's kind of getting to sort of the same sort of game. Fourth chapter, or the second chapter, third part 2, whatever the hell it is. It just started getting progressively, like, there wasn't really any replay value. It just seemed like I was playing the same game 6 different times, basically, but with different mascots and a different story. Now, if they did switch it up, I know they switched it up a little bit. They had some boss battles and stuff like that in there, which is really good as well, that I really did enjoy. But I think just the overall, just the main core gameplay of you just running and collecting shards and using your abilities and everything like that, it just seemed very same. It just seemed very too much of the same sort of game. So that's the reason why I gave it a C tier. Again, my personal opinion, I really did enjoy it, but you know, it basically towards the end, it did feel like a chore playing it because I just felt like I was playing the same thing over and over, but differently, basically. All right, so we're gonna be doing The Last Monday. So this is up until their chapter 2 or their longer demo version. So I'm gonna be ranking this quite high, actually. I'm gonna be ranking this at an A tier. I really did enjoy it. Granted, I think the second demo version, or the latest demo version that came out, I think December of last year, it was actually pretty good. It did give me at times where I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and just the graphics and the overall thing of how this is stemming around just Garfield, really cool, and it was really different. I really loved the gameplay. It was very simple. Even though the gameplay itself was a little simple, but the story was kind of what kept me replaying the game. I kept playing the game over and over, and can't wait to see what else that they're gonna have in store. There was jump scares as well. I wouldn't really say there was a lot of jump scares, just a lot of loud noises and everything, and a lot of stuff that, like, after you think you've done something good, it just jump scares you or something like that. For what I can remember, I don't really remember much of it, but it was somewhat of remembering the story, which is why I really enjoyed the game, which is why it's well deserving an A tier in my personal opinion. So I think it's a really good game. If you guys want to try it out, you guys definitely should. Alrighty, the Hotel Killer. This game was okay. I'm gonna rank it at a D tier. It was okay. There wasn't really any story to it besides this guy is just going around killing people in a hotel, hence the name Hotel Killer. Wasn't my cup of tea, but you know, I just think it was an oversimplified game, and you know, it was different, but I didn't really enjoy it as much as other people probably did. Next up is going to be The Pale Man. The Pale Man is an interesting game. It has difficulties in the game as far as I can remember, but it wasn't really, if you pick the normal difficulty, you kind of can beat it. And I don't think I really did all the endings. I think it's just one ending. Even though there's multiple endings, I'm gonna rank it a C tier because it's actually a really good game. It has replayability because obviously there's multiple endings to the game. There's different difficulties in the game as well. I don't really remember much of there being a story. I remember you just wake up on a park bench and you just had to escape the park. That's basically it. Next up is going to be The Thing PT. I really just threw this on here. I didn't really have to throw this on here, but I did it just because I really loved the movie The Thing. It was a really good movie, but I'm going to rank this at a B tier. It was very similar to the movie. It was really good, and for a PT at the time, it was just amazing. It was a really good game. It was by developers that have actually took parts from a movie and turned them into a playable teaser, which I thought was fucking amazing. I know they did it for Smile not too long ago, and stuff like that, and also PT, and I believe they did other games as well. I think they did one for Scream. I could be wrong about that, but it was a really good game. It was a really good playable teaser. I know it's just a teaser and everything like that. It's not considered a game, but for what it's worth, I want to just give props to them. They did a really good job. It really reminisced from the movie, and it really had its known features. So the atmosphere was absolutely amazing. There wasn't really any jump scares, but just the atmosphere overall gave me chills down my spine because it really brought me back to watching the movie for the first time. Next up is They Are Here. This is including the prologue and the demo that I played on this channel as well. I'm gonna rank this at a solid B tier. I was really thinking between B and C, but I also think that after playing the prologue, it was actually a really good game. The graphics are fucking amazing. The atmosphere is just you know what? I'm actually gonna rank this an A tier. I really think once this game comes out, it's going to be an amazing game for us indie horror creators. So if there's any of you guys that are really excited for this game, I'm right there with you. If you're excited for watching it, I'm right there with you as well because I want to see other people play this game as well. But They Are Here is actually quite amazing. I remember the prologue and the demo. They're really, really good. The atmosphere is absolutely amazing. The story is, I don't really much mean a story in the prologue, but in the demo, they really gave a lot of backstory and everything like that. So I'm looking for, it basically keeps me up to looking forward to ready for the full game to come out. So next is The Hole in the Cabin. Now this game was quite interesting. I think it was like my 4th game that I played that was indie horror related on my channel. And, you know, it really popped up. It really did good views. But as for the game itself, it was a solid C tier. You know, it was a really good sort of horror game where you go, it was a really good pixelated horror game. You go to a cabin and, you know, you sleep there for the night because your car ran out of gas or something like that. And then all hell basically just breaks loose at night. That's basically all it is. A hole opens up, you go down it. The rest is history. I really recommend you guys check that video out. Please be warned that it's not how I record and edit my videos today. So this was an earlier video, and it was a really good one, and it really made me want to play more horror games. So the story was great for what it was worth, for much of the story there was, and the jump scares really did get me, and the atmosphere was, you know, really took me place in a cabin within a forest. So it was really good. It was all right for what it was worth. I think it's well deserving of a C tier. Next is The Three-Headed Santa: The Awakening. This game was actually quite funny, more than scary. I know it had its, you know, times where it was actually very scary. But I'm gonna be ranking this at a B tier just because I really like the creators as well. They actually made the Night of Consumers game, which is actually a really good game that I do have on this list as well, even though I know why not have people consider it a horror game, but I think down the line there will be somewhat of horror aspects to it. But for Three-Headed Santa itself, it takes place during, you know, you basically put 3 stars on a Christmas tree. You summon the Three-Headed Santa, and he's basically just trying to kill you, or something like that. I forget the whole thing. All I remember is that this guy just wants a Lamborghini, and he was butt naked in the beginning of the game. So that's all I really remember. Alrighty, well, next is the Timberlodge Inn. This is probably the worst thumbnail that I've ever fucking made in my entire life. I'm going to give it a D tier because we're real short and simple. It was an okay game. It took a while to get towards the ending of the game. It just happened by random chance. I don't even know how I even got the ending of the game, to be quite honest. I remember walking around for like 20 or 15 minutes, and eventually I just get jump scared, or like get taken to like a shadow realm or something where that game just ends or something. That was basically it. And that's all I gotta say about that. Next is the Mysterious Clown. It was a short little horror game. It was, you go piss at McDonald's, and then you get taken to the sewers by a Ronald McDonald Pennywise type guy, and you just run away, and that's it. That's basically it. I'm gonna give it a C tier because the jump scares were quite scary. The atmosphere was actually quite scary as well. But the running away section is kind of what encapsulates it being in a C tier because it was very scary. But other than that, that was basically it. There wasn't really any story besides I gotta go pee. Here's a McDonald's. I'm gonna go pee in the urinal. Oh shit, now I'm in a fucking sewer. That's basically it. Next is Tornuk 2. I think that's how I'm saying it. Tornuk 2 is actually an interesting game. It takes place after I don't know if it's an actual mythological creature or not, but I'm gonna rank it at a C tier because it was actually a really good horror game. It takes place of a moose guy, a moose or something like that comes and kidnaps children in the chimney instead of Santa coming down your chimney giving you presents or something like that. That's all I know. I don't really remember much, but I remember there being a part in the game where the atmosphere was actually quite crazy. There was actually a really good story with it as well. If you guys really like reading while playing a game, this one is for you. Next is the slasher at Camp Massacre. Well, this game was my actual personal favorite at the time. I'm actually going to give it an A tier. Now, a lot of people are going to think, what is so great about this game? Basically, what it is a pixelated sort of game where you go and you're basically spending the night at a camp. You go to get your buddy, and you go to a house where it's locked, and it unlocks it for you, which then encapsulate it being the most loudest jump scare of my entire fucking YouTube career, to use that lightly. And after that, your friend gets killed. And after that, your friend gets killed, and you basically are running the entire time from this guy. There's multiple endings to the game, and I really love the score the music score in the beginning. It's fucking amazing. I really liked it. I really like the sort of like Miami Vice sort of 70s, 80s sort of music. And it was just really good. I really enjoyed the game, and I really recommend you guys try it out before watching the video on it. I really enjoy the game, and I really think people should try it out. It was a really good game. Next is Delirious. It was basically a game that's made for H2O Delirious. It didn't really make much sense. It wasn't really that scary. I'm gonna give it an F tier. I apologize for those who actually really enjoyed the game. The only redeeming factor of it was at the end when Jason just like flails in the air and dies or something. That's all I really remember from the game. It wasn't really the scariest. It wasn't really story driven at all. It was just random, like a random horror game that was just popped into itch.io. And again, I'm not trying to take a dig at the creators or anything. This is just my personal experience and just what I thought. Don't take this too personally. I just think that this is just how it was and how I sort of think of how the game went. So please don't take it personally. Don't quit a game or don't quit making games or anything like that. Or I don't want to deter anybody else from playing the game. Again, it's my personal experience and in my opinion. So yeah, that's basically all I can really say about that. Next is Enclosure. Now, Enclosure was actually a game where, while I'm playing it, it kind of reminded me of PT, or Silent Hill PT to those. And so I'm going to give it a good C tier just because there's multiple endings to the game, and just the whole PT sort of stuff really brought me back to when Silent Hill PT came out. And this game did have a little bit of a story the atmosphere was actually quite scary when you kept getting, when you kept looping the same thing over and over again. And, there was a little bit of jump scares. I don't remember there being much. I think there was like 1 or 2 or something like that. But, I mean, other than that, really good game. And I think you guys should definitely try it out. Next is, we're getting to the analog horror games section here. We're dipping our toes into that. We're doing the examination of fear. I don't really remember much of the examination of fear. But anyways, back on the subject. The game itself was actually not that bad. I remember there's a lot of games. I keep getting Examination of Fear and the there was another game, the Stark County Assessment Test, mixed up. So I want to make sure I was naming the right game. But it was actually a really good game. I remember there being points where they're showing a Polaroids and everything like that, and it was just like a scary overall game, and it left me kind of like cringing in my boots a little bit, just because it was actually a good analog horror game. I think that was when I started dipping my toes in the analog horror games sort of realm of the on this channel. But I'm gonna rank it at a C tier. I think there was a really good start to doing analog horror games, and I believe that was a good sort of start for, oh fuck, god damn it. But that was actually a really good start of me doing analog horror games. I know there was a little bit of atmosphere to it. There wasn't really much of a story because it just says, do the task that you're being told to do. And there wasn't really much of a jump scares besides just random just noises that scared me because I'm a pussy. All right, now we're getting to the Fears of Fathom sort of category here. So Fears of Fathom episode 3, Carson House. You know what? I actually really did enjoy this one. I'm actually going to give it a B tier because this game was actually really hyped up and I was excited to play it and everything like that. I was very excited to play Carson House. And I was like the first of many to actually jump onto the game as far as I remember. I just wish I could change the fucking thumbnail though. That's just fucking garbage. But other than that, the atmosphere, just like Fears of Fathom, you do a bunch of stuff, leaves you on edge the entire time. I remember there's a point where I thought the pizza delivery guy was actually the killer or a killer or something, or some sort of creep or something like that I had to deal with throughout the end of the game or during the game at that point. But the game itself, it was actually pretty good. It was really good story driven. I really liked the core gameplay of it, how you had to look through the your files and do all that type of stuff, and looking through the video cameras and stuff like that. I really enjoyed the game. I really liked the jump scares in the end where I believe there was actually multiple endings to the game too. I just didn't know at the time, and I didn't want to spoil myself. And I think I just played a lot of the game already when it first came out. I think I played it at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, something like that, and recorded it. So that's why I was kind of drained in the video. But I really did enjoy the game. I'm looking forward to chapter or episode 4 of Fears of Fathom, and I can't wait to see what that is. But Fears of Fathom episode 1, I'm going to give it, oh boy, I'm going to give it a D tier. I know a lot of people are going to shoot my head off for it, but here's my thing. It was scary. The jump scare at the end was very scary. That's why it kind of deterred me from it being an F tier game. Flesh Thirsty Bus. It wasn't my cup of tea either. I didn't find it very scary. I'm gonna give it an F tier. It was a very short game. It was based off of it was just a random game. Basically, to sum it up, you go into a bus, you clean the bus where you want to sit, and then it just turns bloody, and then you die. But then you're watching the entirety of a movie, which then your house just turns into blood, and you die in the end. That's all it was. I just explained the game in 30 seconds. The floor is wet. Now, this game I played recently, and I'm gonna give it a C tier. It was a quite silly type of horror game. The only thing I really remember for it briefly was, you clean up all the blood. There was times where there was actually bugs in the game as well that took me a while to clean up a specific spot that just wasn't want to be cleaned. But other than that, there was multiple endings to the game as well. I only found 2 of them out of the 3 because I couldn't figure out what the third one was. I don't know if you had to escape or you had to do something do something random. I didn't know, so that's why I really didn't get it. But the atmosphere, it was fucking silent. There wasn't really any atmosphere or anything until you're cleaning a specific spot, then something happens. But other than that, it was just basically, once you start cleaning, there was no music, there was no ambiance, there was no nothing. It was just silent. So I had to, obviously put music over it and stuff like that. But other than that, like, really good game. I think it's well deserving of a C tier. It's still out on itch.io and everything like that. I think in the top 15 or something like that on the horror game section. Really recommend you guys try it out and try to figure out that third ending. And let me know, because I don't want to spoil myself and I want somebody just tell me than me looking it up. Next is Forest Dungeon. Now, I don't really remember much of Forest Dungeon. I remember there being I remember the jump scare at the end, and I remember there being that cowhead jump scare in the middle-ish portion of it. I'm gonna give it a C tier just because it was actually not that bad of a horror game. It was a really good, I don't remember the story that much, but I do remember you walk around in a dungeon and just simply trying to escape this dungeon slash castle type thing. Next is Forest Stairs. Now, I wish I could change the thumbnail, and I was actually really sick in this video, but I'm gonna give it a C tier. It talks about the legend of, if you ever see forest stairs or stairs in the middle of a forest or any sort of place, don't walk on them or you'll summon the devil or summon some sort of demon or something like that. But other than that, it was actually a really good horror game. I remember you standing on there for quite a long time, and it just basically transports you to the Shadow Realm, basically. And then you get jump scare in the end. But it was a really short horror game. It talked about the whole sort of, forest stairs sort of thing. There wasn't really much story other than that, other than, don't stand on top of random stairs. But the jump scares were, it was quite silly and everything like that. It was a silly jump scare in my opinion. It did jump scare me too, but the atmosphere was crazy when you stepped on top of those stairs. So, really good game. I really recommend you trying that one out as well. A lot of people are not going to enjoy this one, but The Garden of Banban Chapter 1. I've only played Chapter 1 because I'm going to give it a C tier. Because Chapter 1 at the time, it was really good. And unfortunately, what kind of drove me away from the game was, for one, everybody was hating on the whole mascot horror thing. How there was so much demand of mascot horror games that there was. And everyone thought that this was a copy and paste sort of a Poppy's Playtime and stuff like that, to the point where they were just like getting shit on constantly, these developers and everything like that. So the reason why I didn't want to play any more of it was because I did play Chapter 2. I just didn't I basically played half an hour's worth of the game, and it just wasn't for me. It really wasn't good. Would have been good for the channel, I feel, and I feel like it would have been well deserved to be put on this channel. So that's why I only did one video of it, and I really haven't talked about it since, just because I don't know. I don't want to. It was okay. It was a good game for Chapter 1, but other than that, it was just that was it. The atmosphere was insane. There wasn't really much of a jump scare, but the ending is kind of what encapsulated it to being a really good game, I feel. And it was a really good story. It was a really good story for what it worth. And I know a lot of people were driven to see what had happened in Chapter 2, and now they're up to 5 or 4 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it was a good game for what it was, and I'm happy I didn't really jump into the whole sort of nitty-gritty of the game. So yeah, that was kind of my take on Garden of Banban. Grove Street 404. Now this is I wouldn't really consider this a horror game. There was times where you kind of did just get jump scared, but not really. But basically what it was basically their take on I'm on Observation Duty, or the Mandela catalog. I think I had that wrong. I think it's just more of I am on fuck. It was their take on their I am on Observation Duty and their whole line of games. But basically this was basically that, but set in San Andreas and basically with GTA graphics, like San Andreas graphics. I just had a stroke saying that. Jesus Christ. But I actually did enjoy the game. I'm actually going to give it a B. Actually, I'm going to give it a C tier. I was thinking of giving it a B tier, but I remember the C tier, it took way too long. And you couldn't really skip any of the, you couldn't skip anything at, the tutorial section or the guy talking to you. You couldn't just jump right in and just start. And I know it's an indie horror game, and they probably didn't have that in. But when you die the first time, you you have to restart from the beginning of the game and start all over again. And it happened a few times for me. I think it happened to me I think I spent 2 hours trying to beat this game, and after I beat it, it was kind of like a meh ending, so that's kind of why I gave it a C tier instead of a B tier, now thinking back on it. There wasn't really much story to the game. The atmosphere, there really wasn't much of the story or the atmosphere of the game either. And, there was a little bit of a jump scare when you click and there'd be big smoke there. But that was basically it. The Shadow over Route 80. Now, this game, this was an interesting game. It wasn't really my cup of tea, to be quite honest. I'm going to give it a D tier. It was very slow. There wasn't really much of a story, as far as I can remember. It was an okay game for what it was. And, the jump scares itself, I remember there just being 1 or 2 jump scares, really. And the ending was actually pretty nice. It was pretty cool. But, again, there's no sort of gameplay, really. There wasn't really much of a a story, and then the atmosphere was actually quite intense, but that's kind of the reason why they give it an F tier, because the atmosphere was just actually quite crazy, and I really did like the ending. So other than that, I feel like it's a well-deserved D tier. If I had a D plus, that's where I would put it, or maybe even a C minus, but since we're only going by numericals here, we're just gonna be putting it at D tier. And I would have said numericals when there literally wasn't any numbers in here. I'm talking about alphabetical. Yeah. I'm so stupid, man. Next is actually my first start doing indie horror games, and that was actually Homer's Homicide. Now, after looking back at it before, talk about it now, it was okay. It was okay for what it was starting out on my channel, which is why I'm always going to give it a C tier. It was a good start to where I'm at now, and, it was a fun game. It was a funny game. You had to, the only thing I remember was just escaping Homer, and that was it. And, he had to escape, and you played as Bart and everything like that. Homer basically killed his whole family, froze Marge in the shower. I think that's what happened. But the story was funny. It was interesting. It was different from the first time he actually playing an indie horror game. So I think it kind of, it really just warms my heart when I think of Homer's Homicide, because, I really did enjoy the game. And, it did have, it had probably one of the funniest jump scares I probably have ever seen on this channel so far. Now is actually time for me to do Harvest Festival 64. I'm actually going to rank it in A tier. It was actually a really good game. I really like the Animal Crossing sort of from the from the GameCube version of this game that they took place on. It was basically a Animal Crossing style horror game, which is very different for its time. And basically, it was just you getting some stuff to lead up for the Harvest Festival, which then in the end, it was basically just a drug that basically had them turn cannibals, and they just ate each other and everything like that, and your character just goes batshit crazy, and then it just glitches out, and that's the end of the game. But other than that, the atmosphere towards the end, it really, brought me to Animal Crossing on the GameCube and everything like that, and with all chimey and all cute and everything like that, and then it just goes downhill from there. I don't really remember much of a jump scare, really, but the story itself, it was just a bunch of, Animal Crossing characters and stuff like that, which I think is just based off of Animal Crossing and everything like that. They did a really good job of it looking like an Animal Crossing game. Reason why I give it an A tier. Next is I Am Not Crazy. Now, this is a good little horror game that I remember. I'm going to give it a C tier. Now, I know the C tier is filling up, and I know it's just a really good common ground of me just putting on for horror games, because it has some plus and minuses. I think for the I Am Not Crazy, it was it got to a point where it was just like a weird standstill. I think SpongeBob was even in the game at one point, like just randomly there. But I mean, other than that, it was actually a really good horror game. The jump scares in the game did get me a lot, which is why I gave it a C tier. I don't really there be much of a story as well, but I remember the atmosphere being fucking crazy as well, for what I can remember. But just the jump scares is the only thing I kind of remember from the game. But other than that, really good horror game. I really did like it. Next is I Caught Santa Claus. I'm just gonna rank this at a D tier, just because it was a very short horror game, and it was very simple. You kind of just get your webcam or your camera, you go down, you take a picture of Santa Claus, and he jump scares you in the end. All right, well, we're going to be jumping into the first S tier, and that is Welcome to Kowloon. Now, Welcome to Kowloon is probably, arguably, close to my #1 game that I have played so far. My personal favorite is on this list, but we'll get to that later on. But Welcome to Kowloon is definitely one of my top 3 right now. It was definitely a very good horror game. It had me on edge and everything like that. Atmosphere was fucking insane. The jump scares they caught you way off guard at times. And, the story was just fucking magnificent. It really drove you to the point of this is what happened in Kowloon and everything like that, or their spin on, what happened in Kowloon. So I think it's a well-deserved S-tier game. It was a really good game. I really enjoyed it. I really recommend that you guys spend the money to play it. I believe it's only $3 or $4, something like that. It's really worth the experience, and that's kind of what I took away from this game, was just the overall experience from the game. It also gave me fucking more of skin of playing horror games, because I'm like, yeah, I play Welcome to Kowloon. What's to ya, bub? Now, next is going to be Kiro. I have to give it an F tier. Listen, hey, hear me out. If you guys remember Kiro, it was a very slow horror game. Very slow. Really good story, but overall, I don't really remember there being that much of a jump scare. It seemed more of a cheap jump scare than an actual, like, try to be scary jump scare. It was more of a, like, creepypasta than it was an actual, like, signifies it as a horror game compared to all the other games that I played. I wouldn't really recommend it a horror game. I wouldn't really say it would be a horror game, but I just gave it an F tier because it really wasn't a horror game, really. It was okay for what it was worth and everything like that, but it was just a good game. What? It was a good game if it wasn't considered horror. So, considering this is indie horror, I'm gonna have to give it an F tier because there really wasn't any sort of horror game aspect to it. I remember there probably be 1 or 2 jump scares that were kind of cheap, but it was just a walking simulator. Give me like PS1 graphic vibes that were really good as well, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, other than that, didn't really feel like it was a horror game, really. Alright, well, jumping into another A tier game is going to be the Late Night Mop. Now, regarding the fact that it was actually made by Markiplier's editor, Lixian, it was actually a really good horror game. It was #1 for the longest time on the itch.io horror games tab. And I really enjoyed it. I was unfortunately the last remaining to play it at the time, and I wish I got to it earlier because I feel like that would have been it would have been a really good video at the time. But I'm not gonna hate on myself or put myself down. I at least did it. It was a good horror game, and I remember there just being a lot of good atmosphere and everything like that. It was as simple as just picking up trash and putting trash and just throwing it away and stuff like that. And you just get jump scared over it for it. And it was an okay game. I really liked it, and I really think it deserves an A tier because the graphics are really good. The story was, wasn't really that much of a story, but the gameplay was, kept me on my toes a little bit and everything like that, thinking I'm going to get jump scared after cleaning a piece of trash or mopping something. Next is Low Frequency. I don't really remember much of this game. I'm just going to put in F tier. I don't really remember much of the story. I think there wasn't even a jump scare in the game, and the gameplay was just boring. And I remember one point, I think in the video, where it crashed. I don't even know if I put that in the video, but the game crashed and it had me restart from the fucking beginning. So it was what it was. It wasn't. It just didn't really like the game. It wasn't my personal preference of a horror game, and it was just a very boring game. There wasn't really much of a story. The gameplay was meh, and I don't really think there was even a jump scare in the game, but I don't really remember much of this game. Next is Hungry Lamoo. Now, I kind of wish that I did more of the endings in the game. I'm going to give it a B tier because it was actually a good horror game. I really don't remember much of the other endings because I didn't do the other endings, unfortunately. I wish I did, but maybe that'll be towards the future or something like that. I don't know. But there's a lot of endings to the game. I just did the base ending where you just go to your car and you just get jump scared by Lamoo himself. And that was basically it. I just didn't really expect the twist, which is why I gave it a B tier because, the game and score and everything like that, the music was really good. The gameplay was, quite different, especially when it went from this, cartoony sort of version of the game where you were just thinking that you were just, eating stuff and everything like that, to it actually turned into reality, and he was actually eating people and killing dogs and stuff like that. I didn't expect any of that twist, so that's the reason why I gave it a B tier. It was a really good game. I really wish I knew more of the story just because, I only did one ending and stuff like that. So, because of that, I have to give it a B tier. Maybe if I played more of the endings back then, I probably gave it an A tier or maybe even S tier. Next is The Man in the Park 2. I'm actually going to give this a B tier because I really think I really like how they were giving so many callbacks to the first game. I don't know why I really like that a lot, but this was the most recent horror game that I have played, and I really enjoyed it. I really like how they made an actual second one. I didn't think they would have, but I really like their callbacks and everything. The story was kind of all over the place. It was just kind of a, give a page to one of the guys. They save the universe, give it to the other guy. He destroys the universe, and that was it. Or you can just simply just walk out of the park. There was 6 endings. I fucking, in the title and thumbnail, I accidentally fucking, well, more of the title than the thumbnail, but I put all endings when I forgot one ending, which when I was editing it, while I was editing it, I was like, fuck, I knew what the last ending was and I forgot to do it. I was really bad at counting that day. I apologize. But the atmosphere was, it took place in a dark park. It was okay for what it was worth. The jump scares were kind of cheap and not really scary, but I really just liked the story and I really liked the characters and everything like that. They were quite silly. Next is Map Finder, or Map Friend. I think it was Map Friend. I'm giving it a D tier. It was different. You use a different sort of web browser, and you just go to different points where you try to find something, and then it just shows you a down plane in a forest, and then the game's over. It was more of a like psychological horror game than it was jump scary. There wasn't any jump scares. I don't really remember if there was much of a story. It's one of those games that I wish I didn't play. So I'm just gonna give it a D tier just because the graphics are really good and what they were trying to do was really good. But other than that, wasn't really anything redeeming other than that. Meatly Storage World. I'm gonna give it a C tier. It was an okay game. I don't really remember much of the game. I think it was just more of you go to different storage units and you try to find different clues and you get a key in the end, which then leads to there being another sort of chapter, another addition to the game. But that's all there really was. The jump scare was a little scary. That wouldn't really there be much of a story really, but the atmosphere was actually quite crazy and everything like that. That's all I really remember. But I remember that it was just very tough just trying to get clues and everything from this game, because he was and immediately was just walking around the storage unit and everything like that, or just the storage, little lobby or whatever it may be, the room, whatever it's called. But it was an okay horror game. It was what it was, and it kind of is what it is. You know what I mean? So I think it was deserving of a C tier. It was really good graphics wise. The atmosphere was amazing. I don't really remember much of the story, and the jump scares were meh. That's all I can really say. Next is Mama's Not Home. Well, this is another F tier game just because I feel like they didn't really try a lot. But I mean, I don't know if this is their first game. I don't know if they're made by kids. So like, I'm not gonna really put that on the universe as a bad thing, but it just wasn't a scary game. It was just more of you do this, you do that. There was actually a bug in the game too, where if you clean the thing off the wall first, it just breaks your game and you have to restart from the beginning. But the only thing I really remember is just a jump scare in the end. That was basically it. You walk towards a window and you just get jump scared. That was basically, there's no story. There wasn't really much of any atmosphere at all besides you just walking around, but that was basically it. Yes, the mortuary assistant. Now, a lot of people are going to be confused with this one. I'm going to give it an A tier because the way that they have done this game, I think that they have knocked it out of the fucking ballpark. It's a game that I cannot play anymore. I cannot. My body refuses to play this game. My anxiety levels shoot up to 1,000%. I can't play it. I don't even know how I played it in the beginning. But basically the atmosphere, 1,000% great. The jump scares were fucking scary, and the story was, it was just basically you're a mortuary assistant. It's a brand new job, and you have to do your job, and you have to figure out which demon is which, or who is in what. Yeah, wait, what? How did it go? All right, yeah. It was like you have to pick out of the 3 corpses that have passed away, which one is the demon by doing basically just doing your duties anyway. So, but other than that, it was actually a really good horror game. A reason why I didn't give it an S tier, even though it was a really good game, is because I would put these at my favorite games, and Mortuary Assistant is not my favorite game because my body doesn't want me to play it at all. So, and I really don't like the. I know this is kind of like separates it from the men's from the boys here, but I don't like games where you turn your camera a pixel and then something can happen. I'm not a big fan of that. My anxiety does not like that, but I really did enjoy the game for what it was back then, and I kind of wish I was able to play it now and do all the endings and everything like that instead of just being a fucking pussy about it. But I think it's a well-deserving A tier. If I had an A+, it would definitely be up there. But yeah, I think it's a well-deserved A, like in the A category. The Night of Mannequins, I believe, is what it's called. Yes, it is. Night of Mannequins. I'm going to go to C tier. I think it's a good little spot. It's a good little horror game. The story was all right for what it's worth. And, it was a good game for what it was. You just get punched in the face in the end, but it really did jump scare me a lot. But I just didn't like the mannequins moving and stuff like that. I didn't like how they were moving about every second or something like that. I don't really remember much, but I remember them moving at times. But there was only one jump scare. I don't really there being much of a story, and I don't really remember there much being too much of an atmosphere. I think the atmosphere was a little good, but I don't really remember much of it. This was a long time ago. I don't remember much, but I remember it being a really good horror game. I remember being jump scare in the end really badly. No Steak Hotel. I'm gonna give this an A tier because just for a short little horror game, it was actually really good, and more the fact that I have a fear of snakes, so take that to the bank. So I played a game where I get jump scared by a big fucking snake at the end, and you know, it was a really good game. And I think it's actually made by the people that have made Choo Choo Charles. I think I could be wrong about that statement, but I think it's actually made by the people who have made Choo Choo Charles. So, I mean, just respect to the creators and everything like that. I don't know if they were making this during Choo Choo Charles or just a little side project, but it was a really good game overall for a short little horror game. If you guys want to play that game, I really recommend you guys playing it. Also, try to play Choo Choo Charles. I might actually play at one point, but, you know, who knows? Next is Not Alone Chapter 1. Now, Chapter 2 did come out, I would say like a month ago or so, and I haven't even, I kind of forgot about it, and I'm going to be jumping into that sooner rather than later, but I'm going to give it a B tier. It was an interesting game. It was more of just another cleanup simulator. It was sort of equivalent to Late Night Mop, but it was more chill than it was before. But then in the end, after you clean everything up, you clean up trash, you clean up clothes, and you take out your garbage and stuff, you get jump scared in the end when the lights go out. So that's all I really remember, and I know there's a Chapter 2 that came out, or an Episode 2 or something like that. And I'm looking to play that one. But there wasn't really much of a story in the game. There was only one jump scare in the end, and I don't really remember much of there being an atmosphere until probably the lights go out. That was basically it. Next is Patrick's Revenge. I'm gonna give it a D tier. Now, how do I explain this? So this was a very lazy, boring type of horror game that had SpongeBob slapped onto it. Basically, you come home from work, you're playing as Squidward. You can't go to your house. You have to go to SpongeBob's house. You have to rescue SpongeBob, and then you fight Patrick in the end and you kill him. I just summed up the game in 30 seconds once again. Porter Boy Plus. Now, this is Porter Boy Part 1 and 2 that I've done where I got the secret ending. I'm giving this an A tier. Now, I know a lot of people are going to give me shit on this because it's not considered a horror game. Well, I kind of consider it a decent horror game because you're doing a bunch of, you're basically doing it was a really hard game, and it was like WarioWare, and I really like the secret ending to the game. It took a lot of time and effort to do, and a lot of practice, really, too. And there's times where a guy would jump scare you, so that's kind of the only reason why I really would deem it a horror game, because you do get jump scared in the end. And there were times where like the game was glitching out and it kind of left you uneasy, and it threw you into other type of lands or worlds or something like that where you were actually at least for I was really creeped out. So reason why I gave it an A tier as well. I really like there wasn't really much of a story, but I think just the gameplay itself really signifies it to be an A tier game. I really recommend that you guys try it out as well. Really good horror game, really good game in general, and if you really like WarioWare or like mini games while you're doing a main task, really recommend you trying it out. Well, here comes one that people are gonna be interested on. Poppy's Playtime Chapter 1. This is actually a very old game that I have, I wouldn't say really old, but a really old video that I played. I would say this is probably taking place during 2019, 2018 or something like that. But I'm going to rate this at a B. I really enjoyed the game. I really like Chapter 1. I kind of wish I did Chapter 2, but at this point, I feel like it's too far gone. I know Chapter 3 is just around the corner, but I don't know. I really don't have any interest playing Poppy's Playtime game. Like, I'll play Project Playtime with my friends and other creators on the site as well. But, I mean, other than that, I remember the jump scares being fucking intense. I remember that the whole atmosphere when you were being chased by Huggy Wuggy was fucking intense. I remember just pissing my pants the entire time. And the story itself was actually really good as well. It kind of, encapsulate how, Poppy's Playtime and, the whole, our toys are haunted or cursed or creepy or something like that. And they also introduced Jacksepticeye later on. So, I mean, they were doing something right. So I think it's a well-deserved B tier. I would have given A tier if I played Chapter 2, but I haven't. And, I really just like the overall game. And, they kind of encapsulated sort of, kind of grew the more mascot horror game sort of realm on indie horror games or just horror games in general. Next is the Rootman body cam footage horror game. That was a mouthful. I'm gonna give it a C tier because it talks about the Rootman thing, about how in mythological times, you know, if you picked up a guy or a figure that is shaped as a person and they're wrapped in roots, never pick it up because then the Rootman is gonna come after you to get it back. So that was really all the story that there was. There was a little bit of jump scares in the end. The atmosphere was fucking intense as well. Actually, you know what? After thinking about it, I'm gonna give it a B tier because the atmosphere was fucking crazy, and the jump scare did get me as well. And I think there was multiple endings to this too, but I could be wrong about that. Don't take my word for it. But I really recommend that you guys try this one out as well. It's a really good one. It takes place in the body cam horror footage type of thing. And that was basically all I really remember of the game. All right, well, here is Santy is Home. I'm going to rank it at a D tier. It was, oh my god, it was okay for what it was worth. It was just another small little horror game. There was multiple endings to the game as well. Basically what it was that you collect certain objects that Santy is looking for. And that was basically it. You just collect those objects, you give them to Santy or in his box or something like that. And that was basically it. Next is Schizophrenic Rooms. Now, Schizophrenic Rooms is an interesting horror game. I'm going to give it a C tier just because it takes place when you're actually a guy who has schizophrenia, and this is sort of what drops you into their mind of what schizophrenia is like. Maybe not exactly what it is because, you know, it's also a horror game as well, but again, I don't know how the schizophrenia works, rather, like to a day-to-day. So for those who have that illness as well, I pray for you and I hope that you are doing well. But other than that, that's basically all it was. The atmosphere was actually quite, scary because you never know what was going to happen later on. And, that's kind of all I really remember is that the jump scares were quite crazy. There were times where there were very loud jump scares, so I'm just going to give it a good C tier. Next is SCP-087. Now, this was an interesting horror game. This takes place off of the, the SCP-087, the stairway, where the more you go down, the creepier it gets. I'm going to give it a B tier because I am a sucker for SCP horror games or just SCP in general. It was actually a really good type of game, and I know they had one a while back ago, years ago, during like 2012, 2013, maybe 2014, where they had one, but this was just another take on it. It was just kind of a revamp of the game, and it was actually pretty good. So I really like the game. The atmosphere is fucking creepy when you start off, all the way till you end. And, the jump scares were scary, and, just the overall, I mean, there wasn't really much of a story, really. It's just, you walk down a flight of stairs, and then, you kind of just, pass out and die. That's basically all it is. But I recommend you guys try it out if you guys are SCP fans and you guys know about the SCP-087. I really recommend you guys try this one out. Now, here's another S-tier game. It is September 7th. Now, a lot of people are going to be thinking, why would you like it? Why would you like the game? Because I thought you hated it. Well, I hated playing the game because it was scary. But it was a game that I really do cherish because a lot of people had played it, and I was kind of the last remaining people to play September 7th. And I'm kind of happy that I kind of left it for 1,000 subscribers. And, thank you guys again for helping reach that goal in order for me to play this game. And, it was actually a really good game. I really did enjoy it, and it was a really good game. Very, atmosphere-wise, fucking scary. Jump scares were fucking intense, and the story was okay. The story was meh for what it was worth, but I think the jump scares and the atmosphere kind of make up for it. Next is Shadows 2 or Shadows of Timidity. I'm going to rank this at a B because also in another SCP horror game, this takes place for SCP-096, one of my personal favorite, SCPs, one of many people's favorites. Basically, what it is that you are you're like part of a military or like a security team, and you have to go and get 096 recaptured, which unfortunately he can't be captured because he's just an overall menace to society, and he will kill you. He doesn't like being looked at. Don't look at the shy man, all right? But the only thing I really remember is that the atmosphere was okay. The story was okay as well, but I think just the radio jump scare kind of just takes the cake. But I mean, other than that, it was actually a good game. I really like. I'm just a sucker for SCP horror games and stuff like that. So that's kind of the reason why I kind of gave it a B tier. Kind of biased for it, but you know what? I'll take the L. All right. Next is Shop Shift. I'm gonna give it an F tier. Didn't really like the game. Very slow. Not really scary at all. It was a little, unnerving at times, but that's basically all it was, really. I mean, it wasn't really that scary. I know there was times where the game would just, you know, glitch out or something like that. I don't really remember much of the game, but it was very short and it wasn't really that scary, and it was like a 2-minute game. So I just really like giving it F tier. It wasn't really that scary to me. Next is Sinister Squidward. Now, Sinister Squidward is actually a funny sort of horror game. I'm going to give it a B tier just because I think it was actually a silly little horror game. I think just the beginning, I think it's where you actually like shoot up the whole Krusty Krab or something like that, and you kill Mr. Krabs and you go home and you take place as SpongeBob take place as Sandy trying to rescue SpongeBob and everything like that. Other than that, the story was okay. The atmosphere was, you know, it wasn't really that scary because it was SpongeBob, and I don't really find that scary. But the jump scares were quite scary as well. But, I mean, other than that, it was a funny game. It was a funny story. It had funny dialogue and everything like that. So that's kind of the reason why I'm going to give it a B tier. Next is Skinned Alive. Now, I'm actually a real big fan of the people who have made Skinned Alive. I forget what their names are, though. But I really do like their horror games. So I'm going to give this an A tier here. Skinned Alive was an actual good game. I don't know if these are by the same people that made A Hole in the Cabin or not, but I know they've made one of the other horror games that I have played on here. I just don't remember what their names are, but I have to do upon research about that. But other than that, the game was actually quite scary. The atmosphere was really intense and insane. I don't remember there much being a story. You just had to escape this dungeon after being captured. And, I mean, other than that, I know that the jump scares were really intense and scary as well. So, another horror game that I really do want you guys to try out. And I believe there's multiple endings to the game as well, but I don't really remember. But I really think you guys should try this one out. It was a really good game. Next is Sleigh Bells. Now, I personally, you know what? I'm going to give it a B tier. It was a really good horror game during the Christmas time, and I think it's going to come around once again this year. But Sleigh Bells is basically you're trying to escape Santa, and basically in the end you're just trying to kill Santa because he's just going around killing people. That's basically all it is. There wasn't really much of a story. Rather, I know that there's a lot of atmosphere. There's a lot of really good music and scores, so I gave it a B tier because it was, you know, during the 80s or 70s type music, type of like Miami Vice type, you know, music again, or Hotline Miami-esque. But it was actually it was a really good game. It was very hard when you had to fight Santa in the end. I know you were able to hit him with, like, you know, crowbars and shit, and he just, you know, destroys you. But I remember in the end, it was just like, Santa is coming, or Santa is ready to battle, or something like that. I really enjoyed that. And other than that, I really did enjoy the game, and I hope to make a second part out of it. Spin the Win, or Spin the Wheel. I think it's, let me see. Spin to Win. Now, this game was okay for what it was. I don't know really much about other than that. I don't really there much being much of a story. I don't really remember how you ended up there, but I know it was a very slow type of gameplay where you had to keep pressing, you had to keep spinning the wheel. It would drop their designated stuff that would drop, and then there was a point where you just get jump scared and then you just die in the end. I don't know if there's multiple endings to the game either, but it was an okay game. I'm gonna give it a C tier just because I kind of like the jump scare that got me. It got me really badly. Squidward's Prediction. Now, I'm gonna give this a solid B tier, which was actually a really good, like, Squidward horror game. Now, looking back at it, it was probably one of the scariest type of Squidward or SpongeBob horror games, rather, that I played. The jump scares are fucking loud. And I would say just the reason why I didn't give it an A tier is towards the end of the game, I feel like it kind of fell off in gameplay. You're just trying to just sneak around Squidward and then just get keys or something and then just sneak back and then open up a door, and that's the end of the game. Other than that, I mean, the beginning of the game, if they would just end it off there when you went to the basement or out the door or something like that, I feel like it would have been maybe a bit higher on this tier. But I'm going to give it a B tier because the jump scares were fucking loud and it really got me. There wasn't really much of a story besides Squidward has gone crazy and murdered everybody. And the only thing else that I kind of remember about the atmosphere is it was just a little, I think in the beginning of the game, it was really intense and everything like that. But I think it's what deserves a B tier. The Stark County Assessment Test. Now, this one was actually, I'm going to give this a C tier. It was a fairly simple analog horror game. And it was it was different. It was fun. I really somewhat enjoyed it. I didn't really find it scary. I know there's like a point where it did jump scare you. But other than that, Wasn't really much of a story. Wasn't really much of a jump scare. It was just like a random noise that got me. And other than that, really not much atmosphere besides you putting the immersion that you're taking a test, which is why I'm giving it a C tier. Now, start survey. I'm going to give this a D tier. Now, a lot of people are going to come after my head for it because some people did like it, some people didn't like it. I feel like it was a very slow horror game. It was basically you answer these cryptic messages of like, is there somebody behind you? Or have you checked, you know, would anybody know if you were missing or something like that? That's kind of the reason why I gave it a D tier instead of an F tier. There was a kind of a cheap jump scare, but then at the end of the game, it's just basically, it's just like telling you that this is all a simulation. It's saying that like you fell into the, you fell in the trap and, you answer these questions like all the other sheep would. Stuff like that, or like talk about media and like encoding and messages and I don't know, zeros and ones, binary. It was fucking confusing. Next is Ted. Now this is another one that I recently played. I'm gonna give this a C tier because it was actually a very short horror game. I don't know how a nuclear bomb went off in the subway or something like that and you're still alive or whatever. But then you try to escape the sub, and then you get chased by a teddy bear, and then you basically just escape the whole subway altogether, and that's basically the end of the game. That's basically it. Atmosphere in the beginning was actually really good. There really wasn't much of a story, really, and, the jump scares were scary. When the first jump scare, you get jump scared in the train, and then, when you get jump scared by, the teddy bear itself, it's quite loud, and it did get me at times. Now is the Baby in Yellow. I'm actually going to give the Baby in Yellow a solid S tier. Now, this is coming from the Halloween update, the Christmas update, and the Black Cat update. So, honestly, I really did enjoy the Baby in Yellow game. It's really fucking good. I really loved it. I like the game overall. And I can't wait for them to come out with another chapter of this game as well, because I look forward to it each and every time. I know there's a surge of people who actually love the game, and I'm one of them. And I just can't wait for the second one. The atmosphere is fucking intense. The jump scares later, or like in the earlier updates, were unexpected, especially playing the first time. That fucking got me. And the story itself, it's telling a really good story about this demon baby and everything like that. So I can't wait to see what happens in the next chapter when they brought us to hell, basically. And I can't wait to see what's next. The Ball Pit. Now, the Ball Pit is a good little horror game that I have played. Basically, what it is that you go to McDonald's, you get your Happy Meal, and you go to the play pit or the ball pit, and you get sucked down, and then you're basically in the back rooms of McDonald's. I'm gonna give this a C. I'm actually gonna give this a B tier just because like it was a funny little horror game as well. When you get jump scared the first time by Ronald McDonald, he makes a fart noise, so I'm really immature for playing that on here, mostly because of the for B tier, but the atmosphere was okay. There wasn't really much of a story, and there was a couple jump scares that did get me, especially towards the end. Bloody Basketball. Now, Bloody Basketball was probably one of the scarier games that I didn't really expect to be scary. So the reason I'm giving it an A tier is just because of that reason alone. The atmosphere, where you're going out to play some basketball, you're doing some three-pointers or some free throw shots, and basically everything is all hell breaks loose. You're just simply playing fucking basketball. Yes, The Descent. Well, I'm going to give this bad boy a C tier. I feel like it's a really good average game. You basically descend into the catacombs of this random, like a random catacombs type cellar or something like that. And basically you just get a bunch of keys and everything like that to rid the town of its curse. And you basically just get jump scared in the end while you're trying to escape the whole catacombs or tunnels or something like that. Now it's The Driver. I'm going to give this an F tier just because it wasn't really much of a horror game. It was just a random, you sit in a car and it's just more of a cringy and like, like something's going to happen. I don't know if there's multiple endings to the game either where you do get jump scared. I don't know, but I just didn't find it scary. I find it more funny than scary, really. But, I mean, it is what it is. Dr. Mario's Lab. I'm going to give this a C tier here. It wasn't really that scary. It was a bitch to find this game too. So, and honestly, it was okay for what it was worth. It was all right. It was just a scary, you just get, it was more not even like a horror game, but like you did get chased by a horror type Mario character, or Mario himself rather. Atmosphere was okay. It really gave me like vibes that I was playing a Mario game or a Mario horror game. And other than that, the jump scares, there wasn't really much of a jump scare. It was just, shit just happened. That was basically it. And there wasn't really much of a story. I didn't really read too much of the story. All I know is that either Mario or Dr. Mario or Dr. Luigi or whatever the fuck was taken by Mario or something. I don't really know. I don't really remember. I didn't really care enough to know the story because it was meh. Furry Friend. I'm going to give this a D tier, even though I really didn't like the game. It was just more of, it was a very simple game. It was basically for Ludwig's cat. That was basically it. So you're played as Ludwig, and you have to get your growth enhancement pills, which makes you grow in height. And if you fell, his cat would jump scare you. That was basically it. Next is D-Part Prototype. Now, this is another one of my personal favorite horror games. D-Part Prototype is actually probably one of these other scary games that I have played and that I actually really enjoyed. And that's why I kind of like Welcome to Kowloon as well, because they kind of incorporated their body cam sort of horror style into Welcome to Kowloon, which I really love both. Other than that, it was actually a really good game. I really liked the atmosphere. The jump scares were fucking loud, and there wasn't really much of a story. But I really think, again, the jump scares and the atmosphere really make up for it. Shrek is in the Woods, or Shrek in the Woods, or something like that. I'm going to give it a C tier just because it was just another, you run away from Shrek and you collect stuff, and then you just run away, and then you get captured, and then you just escape. It's basically all it is. Next is Under. Now, Under is a really good horror game. I'm putting it at an A tier. I kind of wish there was more to the game than there was. It was a very short horror game. I kind of wish there was more to the game than what there was. But other than that, it was okay for what it was. You're basically a World War II or World War I guy who gets trapped in like a bunker. And so you basically just have to escape the bunker by blowing up this hole in the wall. And there's a time where you do get jump scared or get chased by a alien-like creature that's down in this bunker. Jumbo's Kitchen. I'm going to give this a D tier just because it was okay. It was just you picking up trash and throwing it out and collecting dishes and washing them while not getting killed by Jumbo Josh. That was basically, I just summed it up for you. The Hill Maniac. Now, the Hill Maniac, I'm actually going to give an A tier. Now, I actually really did enjoy the Hill Maniac because it's also made by the guys that made the, oh, wow, goddamn, what's the fucking game called? The Poop Killer. They made the Poop Killer. And these guys made this game, and I really want to try it out because I haven't played any of their games at the time, or as far as I can remember. And the game was actually pretty good. It was a really good story. It was a really good story. I really enjoyed the gameplay as well, even though it was just a walking simulator most of the time. But, I mean, the jump scares were fucking scary. It felt like I was playing an actual movie, and it was actually really good. So, that was kind of the reason why I gave it a A+, or an A tier. The Fear Assessment Test. This is including the Fear Assessment Plus and the Fear Assessment Test the first time. Going to be ranking this at an A tier. It's actually a really good analog horror game. It really did leave me on edge and like creeped out at the end of doing this whole test. Other than that, I mean, like the atmosphere really had me, in depth to play the game. Just the perception of them doing a bunch of stuff and actually having me creeped out and actually looking around my house and everything like that during both those videos. It really they did their job, and it was a really good horror game. I really recommend that you guys try it out. Five Nights at Freddy's Plus. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, this is not technically an indie horror game. Well, technically, it sort of is an indie horror game. It's made by an indie creator, and it's based off of a horror game. But I'm going to give Five Nights at Freddy's Plus an A tier, just because I really liked how they kind of revamped it to the first game. But I would have given it an S tier, but it was way too easy. It was way too easy of a Five Nights at Freddy's game. I know a lot of like indie creators who make Five Nights at Freddy's games really make them go fucking batshit crazy and fucking hard. And it's also unfortunate that the game did get canceled for the time being at the time of this video. So I don't know that in the future that it'll actually come out or not. But who knows? But it was way too easy. I did my first 20v20 v20 or 420 mode for those who are in depth with that game. And, other than that, it was a really good, game. It was really different. And, I really like the revamp and the remake for it. The Suits Have Gone Mad Chapter 1. I'm going to give this an A tier as well. We're getting a lot of A tiers here. Now, the Suits Have Gone Mad was actually a really good game. At the time of this video, the Chapter 2 has not come out yet. But I can't wait to try out Chapter 2 when that comes out. But basically all it is that these are made by, I don't know if it's like an ink company or something like that. But basically, you are a guy who's working a normal 9 to 5. And basically, the entire time, you're just trying to do your job. And then you make up this, like, presentation. And you actually pick the wrong... I think it's called, like, Desolation Black or Resolute Black or something like that, and your whole staff goes crazy and they want to kill you for it. Now, Grimace's Basement and Grimace's Birthday. Now, I'm giving it a B tier because Grimace's Birthday, I really don't even want to count Grimace's, basement just because it was very slow and I beat it in fucking like 2 minutes or whatever. But Grimace's Birthday was actually a really good horror game. It was made by the same guys that have made the Suits of God Mad as well. They made a little side project due to the whole Grimace trend that was going on. But other than that, it was actually a really good game. I really did enjoy playing a little Grimace horror game, and it was really good. It was very good atmospheric-wise. The story was really good as well, and the jump scares were okay as well. 1 out of Flumpties 2. Now, this is giving me a little bias here, but I'm going to give it a B tier. I really do like 1 out of Flumpties. I really love 1, 2, and 3. But 2, I played a lot of back in the day when I was a kid, like back in 2014, 2015. And I really just want to throw it on here just because I know it's an older title and everything like that. And, the atmosphere, it really kind of drives you into the 1 out of Flumpties sort of, art style and into their sort of realm and everything like that. But the game overall was pretty good, and I really did enjoy playing it. The true ingredients, I'm also going to give this a C. I'm going to give it a C just because it's a SpongeBob horror game. This is kind of everybody's most popular sort of game that they like playing. I really did enjoy it. I really liked the story and everything. But, I mean, it was just kind of cheap jump scares and just a runaway section, and that was basically it. Which is why I think it's more of a C. Why it should be deserved to be in C category. 5 Nights at Junior's. I'm going to also give this a B just because I really did enjoy the aspect of Junior's. It was different. It was more of a different kind of game from Five Nights at Freddy's that we're usually playing as. And it was basically more of a I'm on observation duty and like Five Nights at Freddy's mixed together. So I really enjoyed it. I really liked the game. I think towards the end when you had to fight Mango, it was really hard. But I mean, it didn't deter me from playing the game, and it didn't deter me from the entire sort of thing. Now looking back on it, I probably said some things that I wish I didn't, but now looking back on it, I kind of really did like the game. Oh, Bunny Wants to Play. I'm just going to give this a C tier. It was basically a horror game that was based off another popular YouTuber whose bunny unfortunately died or got given away or something like that. And it was basically just a horror game revolved around them. And, it was just cheap jump scares, because it's from Combo Bomb. And it was just basically cheap jump scares, and that was basically it. Susie's, we're putting this in a, actually, I want to make another fucking category where I want to, never want to play it again or don't even play at all. Susie's Secret Playhouse, it was a game that you couldn't even beat. You can't even beat the game. It basically what it was is that you go... I kind of wish I didn't even play this game, but I was at a schedule at the point. I was doing a schedule at the point, which I'm trying to get back into now. But basically what it is you just find Polaroid camera film about where your friend is or something, and then you have to run away from Susie. And you can't even leave outside the door. You just get fucking jump scared, and you can't even fucking win. It was so fucking annoying. Sinister Squidward. Now, Sinister Squidward, I'm gonna give it a B tier. Now, a lot of people are gonna think, whoa, wow, you're gonna put that over True Ingredients? Well, yes and no. The reason why I say yes is because I didn't really expect there to be... I thought it was just a simple run, get Patrick or Squidward or whoever, and you just drive, and that's the end of the game. But there's a lot more stuff that I didn't expect. There was basically a flamethrower segment in the game that I did not expect at all, which is why I really wanted to give it a +1 over a C+. So I wanted to give it a B because I feel like it was a really good game, and I kind of regret saying some of the bad stuff about the game. But it was kind of a walking simulator in the beginning of the game. But other than that, it was a good game overall towards the end. Happy Place. I feel bad for saying this, but I'm going to give it a D tier. It was okay, but it was very slow. It wasn't really scary, and it was just not my cup of tea of the game. I know they came out with like another demo of the game, which I don't know if I'm going to play or not, just because like I don't know I didn't really like the first one, and I don't know how I'm going to feel about playing the second one, but I'm not going to hate on them too much just because of the fact that these were made by kids too, and if they're putting the time and effort into this, but it's just not my personal cup of tea. Five Nights at Freddy's Rewritten of 87, I'm going to give this an A tier as well. I really enjoyed the game, and just Night 6, how they kind of just take away the fact that you're not really playing another Five Nights at Freddy's game. You're basically going against Shadow Bonnie, was actually a good addition. And I wish I kind of went past that But I kind of realized that me doing a whole other episode just on Shadow Bonnie itself would probably not be the best. So that's why I kind of didn't want to do it and just beat the game and be like, oh, cool, I just beat the game here. When I realistically did beat the game at night 5. But it was really good. My personal Five Nights at Freddy's game that I really do like is FNAF 2. So that's kind of why I give it an A+. I am kind of biased about it. From the Darkness, I'm going to give this a B. I feel like there's times where it was very slow, but the jump scares were fucking scary and the atmosphere was fucking crazy. There wasn't really much of a story, really, besides you're just trying to get family photos. That's it, really. Ronald McDonald's, I'm actually going to give this a B tier as well because I really enjoyed the other endings. I didn't really check the last ending. I think it was actually a Burger King ending or something like that, but I'm not going to do a whole other video just to do one last ending because I wish I kind of did it when it first came out, but you win and you lose, you know what I mean? But the reason why I was going to give it an A tier because of their endings, because they were quite funny and that kind of like encapsulates it with me. But other than that, I kind of wish that Ronald McDonald didn't have to walk outside because you couldn't walk any faster than him. And if you could juke him somehow, then you just have to hide and hopefully he doesn't find you. But other than that, it was a good game. And last but without least, Night of the Consumers. I'm giving it an S tier. I know a lot of people are going to say that it's not technically a horror game, but we don't know yet because there's only one night for the game yet, so who knows how it's going to be later on. But night 1 for Night of Consumers, I really fucking enjoyed it. Really kept me playing the game when I kept losing, so I mean that's a plus overall. The atmosphere was really good. I liked the music and everything, and just the overall core gameplay was really fast and upbeat and everything, which is why I really think it's deserving of an S tier. Well, that is it. That is all the horror games that I have played so far, and I have ranked so far. So these are my personal opinions, and after all, I played them, and these are my experience on these games as well. But, I mean, other than that, I'm looking to do another one of these down the line. You know, obviously, I'm going to stop after, you know, Man in the Park 2, and I'll start my whole other line going forward. But I feel like this would be a good, little different type of a video. I apologize for not uploading in the past few days, but I was working on my car again. My car whole thing has been stressing me out and everything like that. But other than that, I'm really happy that this video is going to be different compared to the other things. And we're going to jump back into some more itch.io horror games and some other horror games that I have down the road as well. But I hope you guys have a great day and or night. And I hope you guys enjoy this different style of a video. If you guys did, make sure to hit that like button down below. And let me know in the comment section down below as well. What was your favorite horror game that I have played on this channel? And another thing as well, if you guys want to check out these videos individually, I have a link in the description of all my videos of my horror games playlist of every game that I have played, including all these ones that I have on here. But I hope you guys have a great day and or night. Stay safe, be responsible, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.